So today we are going to discuss how America is repeating the British Empire final mistakes. You know, America took over Britain. We are going to dive deep into it. How America became the world's leading superpower. Yes, I have to wear my Make America Great Again cap because we are talking about empires. Yes, and this is the cap. Make America Great Again. So let's dive into this. How America is repeating the British Empire final mistakes. So I have a video here I have to project so that we get the narration so well.
Empire the world had ever seen surrendered, not to an enemy army, but to its own debt, to its own weakness, to the
This is the exact video we are going to watch. It is going to give us some in-depth. I've learned a lot from this. I watched it myself, and I think we all have to see this and learn something from it.
In November 1956, something happened that changed the world forever. The most powerful empire in human history, an empire...
The most powerful empire in human history. That means the British Empire was unstoppable. Why unstoppable? Because they conquered more than half of the Earth's surface. Let's continue.
Empire that had ruled a quarter of the Earth's surface.
A quarter. That's what he's saying. But they ruled more. Even those big countries. That's what this one is saying, a quarter. But even those big countries back then, Russia, China, all of them bowed to the British Empire. Why? Because it was just recent that the British Empire handed over Hong Kong to China again. There are a lot of places. There is even an island that it is raising a lot of questions. Donald Trump first actually approved of it, that yes, it should be given back to the rightful owners, as the British decided to do. They are having a lot of islands that were supposed to be for other people, countries, but they, the British, because they were strong, they harbored it. One of them is the Falkland. Like, it has been a massive, there has been a massive war on this island between Argentina and Britain. And even with the recent one, we'll go into that. But even with the recent one, it belongs to Mauritania, an African country. We'll go into that. But let's watch this. I was just trying to prove a point that these people were so big that even America, these people colonized them. So yes, we'll go into that.
Empire whose currency had dominated global trade for over a century was brought to its knees in just 11 days. And that too, just by a phone call. On that phone call, the United States government delivered an ultimatum to Britain. Stop your military operation in Egypt immediately, or we will collapse your currency. We will sell every British pound we own. We will veto your emergency loan from the International Monetary Fund, and we will watch your economy burn. Britain had no choice. Within hours, the greatest empire the world had ever seen surrendered, not to an enemy army, but to its own debt, to its own weakness, to the reality that it was no longer...
To its own debts, own weakness. How? Now, if you go to the United States and you ask, how much is the United States owing? We will think, it's true. America is the biggest economy by far in this world right now. And you ask yourself, who does the United States borrow from? Who do they borrow from? It's something you have to dig into it. They borrow from companies, from
the power it believed itself to be. That moment, known as the Suez Crisis, was the final nail in the coffin of British global dominance. But here is what they do not teach you in school. Britain did not fall because of that one crisis.
Britain did not fall because of one crisis. Now, there are a lot of crises in the United States right now that you can link it to this one. First of all, America is owing a lot. When it comes to technological advancement, China is overpowering America. And now the world focus is shifting from America to Asia, especially on China. Again, America cracked down on immigration. It's something else. Actually, when it started, a lot of people supported, yes, people have to be in the country legally and all that. But the way at which it is going and the route on the streets of America, everything tells.
Britain fell because for decades before that moment, it had been making the exact same mistakes that America is making right now. And by 2026, those mistakes may finally catch up with us.
We are in 2026 and we are just sitting down, folding our arms, waiting and seeing if this prediction will come on. But everybody knows, most economics in America, they know that America is falling. GDP, inflation, the cost of living, everything shows that America is falling. At least we have some uncles and aunts and some family members in the United States. They went long ago and they will tell you the way America used to be back then is not how it is now. Why? Because there are a lot of factors pushing or forcing this to happen.
Let me show you exactly what happened, because when you see the pattern, you will never look at America the same way again. To understand how Britain fell, you first have to understand how Britain rose. In the 1800s, Britain was the master of the global economy.
Master of the global economy, as I said earlier. But you know, sometimes I do understand everything is understandable here. You can't stay on top forever. No. Whatever being the case, you will decline. No matter what, you can be on top, and there will be some countries also trying to catch you up because everybody is trying their best to dominate economically, military, logistically, everything. Every country is trying. It's only the African countries that I would say that they are not trying their best. They are just lagging behind and watching what the world has for them.
British pound wasn't just a currency, it was the currency. When countries traded, they used pounds. When central banks stored reserves, they stored pounds.
Now, it is in this situation, in our current situation, everything we do internationally is the dollar, not the pound again. Despite the pound having that strength or is valuable compared to the US dollar, the dollar outweighs it when it comes to international trade and business. The most currency everywhere we use, even the American enemies, countries that hate America, they use the dollar to trade. That was how Britain used to be back then. Now, I've heard President of China, Xi Jinping, is also saying there should be a system that will help the world to trade with their currency. Chinese yen or RMB. They are just pushing hard that they will also be dominant in terms of economy.
When global contracts were written, they were written in pounds. That gave Britain a superpower. They could borrow cheaply, they could fund their military, they could run deficits and still survive because the world needed their currency. Sound familiar? Well, it should, but underneath that power, the foundation was already cracking. By the late 1800s, the United States had surpassed Britain as the world's largest economy. America
Now, just like the United States surpassed Britain as the world's largest economy, now China is gradually taking over. China is the biggest second economy in the world by far. Second economy in the world by far. That means the third is not even close. And it is almost catching up with the United States at a top speed that the US is afraid and fighting. That's the reason why Donald Trump at a point in time had to be putting tariffs and trying to corner the Chinese, just that they will not be able to. But what the Chinese are right now, they are not small elements again. They have evolved around the world more than 5,000 years. They know how systems work, how things go. Despite they have never been a world superpower, as in the leading superpower, but they know how systems work. America is not up to even 500 years. But these people, they've learned a lot from empires and generations, so they know what they are about. Now they are trying to catch up with the US, and everything they are doing shows that they are dominating Africa, Asia, America, even the North and South America and other continents, Australia. The made in China goods are all over, and they make sure logistically they are the best. Sending goods and services all over the world, they are the best.
American factories were outproducing British factories. American innovation was accelerating. American wealth was exploding. But the pound stayed dominant because the world was
This is what's happening now between the US and China. So
used to it. The system was built around it. Changing reserve currencies is like trying to replace the engine of a plane while it's still flying. So Britain's currency stayed strong, even as Britain itself was weakening. Then World War One started. Britain borrowed
World War One started. World War One. War is being fought with money. Despite we use weapons to fight, but if you don't have money, how do you purchase the weapons? So
massive amounts to finance the war. And when the war ended, Britain had transformed from the world's biggest creditor into one of the world's biggest debtors.
America fought war in Afghanistan for so long that that war also needed money to fund it. Not only that, America has been policing the world, and they invest much into it. Anywhere there's war, America is there. And now their monies are going, mostly their monies go into war than developing their own country. That's the reason why at a point in time, I liked what Donald Trump said. He said he was going to make sure those deployed to other war-torn countries and places, the American soldiers deployed there, he's going to bring them back home. And he eventually did that.
Especially to the United States. Now Britain had a choice. It could accept reality and scale down, or it could pretend that nothing has changed. Britain chose denial. In 1925, Britain made one of the worst financial decisions of the entire century. They returned to the gold standard at the pre-war exchange rate, meaning they tried to make the pound look as strong as it used to be, even though the country behind it was no longer that strong. It was all
Now, the Chinese yen or RMB can be strong in a point that despite the United States currency being bigger than the yen, people are patronizing China more than America. So at this point in time that the president of China is asking the world to use their currency in buying stuffs from China, that means they are going to collapse the dollar. Because yes, the dollar is strong, just as the Britain pound was strong that time. But the dollar overcame it because everybody was seeking for the dollar and not the pound. It can be big, it can be whatever. Even right now we are speaking, pound is bigger than the dollar. But dinari, they are all bigger than dollar. Or how did they mention it? The Saudi currency, the Kuwaiti currency.
all ego, and it was devastating. To keep the pound artificially high, Britain had to keep interest rates painfully high. That crushed growth, that crushed jobs, that made British exports too expensive. Meanwhile, British leaders kept spending like they still ran the world.
That made British exports expensive. British exports. Now, American exports are so expensive. So people, as I said earlier, people ought to go to China and patronize from China because their currency is
They kept military bases across the globe. They kept funding an empire.
military bases across the globe. A lot of British military bases collapsed. Now, American bases all over the world. Let's see how things go because even the Europeans feel threatened by America, by what Donald Trump is doing. So as time goes on, I think they will start sacking them.
Empire they could no longer afford, and the cracks started turning into fractures. By 1931, the math finally caught up. Speculators attacked the pound. Britain was forced off the gold standard. The pound lost nearly 30% of its value almost overnight. But even after that humiliation, Britain managed to keep the pound important for a little longer. Not because it was strong, but because Britain forced its colonies to keep using it. India.
This is when colonization also coming. These people have been forcing a lot on our necks. New colonization. These people, it's we Africans that we are so weak. We don't want to work with our hands. We don't want to think with our brains. We don't want to explore. So these people are still trying their, even now, for the India, Australia, Pakistan, all that, despite bigger hands trying to maneuver them to do what they want, for Africa is so worse. Now we depend on outsiders for almost everything, building roads, construction of infrastructures. Everything is foreigners. And it's so sad. So sad.
Australia and Pakistan. These parts of the empire had no choice but to hold pounds. Britain was propping up its currency by trapping other countries inside its system. Then World War II arrived, and Britain borrowed even more. By 1945, Britain owed more money than its entire economy produced in a year. The empire was basically bankrupt. It survived on American loans and American patience. And still Britain kept pretending. It kept spending. It kept acting like a superpower. And it kept playing the role.
It kept acting like a superpower. I think Britain that time wanted to still flex the muscles. That's why they saw America taking over. But on person much said they wanted to show we are who we say we are. Now that's happening. China is coming. America wants to flex its muscles. We can go head to head with you when it comes to ban for ban, as in trade war for trade war, tariffs for tariffs, all that. China is relaxed because a lot of people are patronizing them. And America, who patronize? I think America sells a lot of weapons to the outside world. But for China, everything is China. Even iPhones, they are made in China. iPhones are assembled in China. Everything China. So yes, that's it.
Long after the power was gone. And this brings us to 1956, when Egypt's president nationalized the Suez Canal.
Hey, 1956, that means the following year, 1957, Ghana got. So if not for their diminishing power, I think they wouldn't have let us gain our independence.
Canal. Britain saw it as an insult to imperial pride and a threat to oil access. So Britain, France, and Israel invaded Egypt. And militarily, they were winning. But Britain forgot one thing. They were no longer the world's banker. It was America now, and America was furious. President Eisenhower saw this invasion as colonialism, the exact kind of behavior pushing newly independent nations toward the Soviet Union. So he decided to end the illusion. America threatened to dump British pounds on the open market. That would collapse the currency. Britain would be unable to import food, unable to import oil, unable to function. And America also blocked Britain's emergency IMF loan. Britain's reserves were draining at over 100 million per week. They were days away from financial disaster. So
debt. Everything you see is debt. America is also in that situation now. Debt. I think they know this, but they still want to do their thing.
Britain surrendered, not to Egypt, but to its creditor. The Suez Crisis lasted 11 days, but it revealed the truth that Britain was not a superpower anymore. It was a debtor nation living on borrowed time, and the moment its creditor called the bluff, the empire folded. Now here's why this should terrify Americans, because the United States today is walking the same road. Britain spent decades funding a global empire it could not afford. America is doing the same. Britain maintained power through reserve currency privilege. America does too. Britain assumed reputation could replace reality.
Reputation, Charlie, this reality, I think America will one day wake up to it and they make America great again and all the agendas. I do love it though, but the way things are going, I think it shouldn't be, because Now, Britain fell because of the pride and all that. America is also trying to do that. Make America great again doesn't mean you have to cut off your allies. The United Kingdoms, the Canadians, Europe itself. They are the strongest countries that are backing you to stand tall. We know you are strong on your own. America is strong on its own. But these countries come together. Canada, even Mexico, you had a trade deal with Mexico, and Canada. And this trade deal was so good to the extent that it was helping America and Canada and Mexico all at once. But now, because of pride and all that, there's an end to it. And America is trying to force itself on Canada. You are going to be 51st or whatever state. And you are going to always be our colony, what, blah, blah, blah. We make you strive, we this, all that should end. These countries all come together to see you as a big cousin, and they push you up to fight your enemies. So if there's this pride till some time, I think America
assumes that too, and Britain's fall happened the most dangerous way possible, gradually, then suddenly. For decades, the warning signs were obvious: debt, industrial decline, military overreach. But the pound still looked strong, so Britain told itself, we are fine. Then one crisis arrived, and in 11 days, a century of dominance ended. America's version of that moment is coming. Nobody knows what it will be. A debt crisis, a geopolitical humiliation, a major country rejecting dollar pressure, or a financial shock that will...
Most countries have started rejecting the dollar. Recently, I saw a news in the news that Germany, no, UK, Britain, some of the banks in there are coming together to form their own subsidiary or a counter card. That's Visa card and MasterCard. They just want to eliminate Donald Trump's debt, not debt, pressure on economies. I'll tariff you, I'll do this, I'll ban you, I'll stop you from using this, I'll do this. They are afraid that at a point in time, if they still depend on this MasterCard or Visa card, they will not be able to function or operate.
Break global confidence. But the pattern is the same, and the numbers are getting worse. America's debt is climbing. Interest payments are exploding. We spend more than we produce. We borrow from the future to pay for the present. And just like Britain,
America spends more than they produce. For weapons, they produce more. And yes. But the spendings in even just recently, 2026, Donald Trump wanted to increase their defense budget to 1 trillion US dollars. How? $1 trillion US dollars. How do they recover that?
we still act like the old world order is permanent, and that's the biggest mistake. Empires don't die when the enemy attacks. They die when the math becomes undeniable, and the moment the world stops believing, everything changes fast. So the question isn't whether America will face its Suez moment. The question is, will we recognize it before it happens? In November 1956, something happened that changed the world forever.
And it has ended. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show you, and I think we all learned something from it. America is going down. Americans know. They know now China is trying their possible best. And one funny thing is, mostly when America sees this, they try to overthrow leadership from whoever or wherever the threat is coming from. But China, it will not be easy to do that. You can't overthrow that leader. Okay. Now, military power. You want to fight China. How do you fight China? They have the nuclear weapons too. They have the technological advancement for all the arms of government. When it comes to Air Force, Navy, land, they are ready. So it will not be easy. So America is just pausing on it. And Charlie, America wish they can use force, but they know the consequences. Even if America wins, they will face some big and harsh consequences. I'll end this here. If this is your first time here, do well to subscribe and be part of this PB Century Creators Hub. Thank you very much. Bye.